Okay. Now let's do tones. Okay. And then we'll do the conference mute. Okay. So we've got it all set up now. Okay, well, thank you all for attending tonight. This is the Taurus full supermoon. It's the last supermoon of 2024. And we've had a certainly interesting year of 2024. Lots of big shifts, lots of changes. And this, of course, is, that last moon right here, a full moon going out of along the same time of the 29th degree of Pluto in Capricorn before it leaves on, I think, on the 19th. So it's only 4 days. And there's just so much going on. Like I was telling some of you earlier before we started the recording with it. But before I even get into, outlining some of the explanations on really what's happening, one of the most deepest, profound things Spirit was telling me, and I've been getting this all year long. It's more light here. Is, and I've also mentioned this in other calls, it's like, what is our personal responsibility at any given point of time to ourselves first, and then what is our responsibility to the other, whatever the other is. And the other can be, parents, it can be children, it can be grandchildren, business associates, what have you, friends. And we all have these dynamics that we work out. Those dynamics are unique to each of us depending on the genetic inheritance, the ancestral inheritance. And again, the ancestral inheritances can go way back for generations. And those of you, who have worked with Jude or we've talked about at different times, know what I mean by that. Because you'll find different repetitive patterns that come up either in the way that you do relationship, you attract relationship in either friends or business, spouses, different things. But we're really at a place where we're going into a whole new reality. And there's different things I'll talk about with the astrology to explain the dynamic of it. But the short truth of it is we have to go to our heart to decide what is our responsibility and what's not. So for me, I've had this dynamic for today, that some of you had got on the call later, where I've got one great aunt, 88, that I take to and from eye shots every 6 weeks, and we have to do a follow-up every week after that. And that's only an hour away, but it's still, like a 4-hour trip. But the other's an 8-hour day. And then there's different things. I have to see her every day because she's getting where she just can't do certain things anymore. I've got my dad, 81, who I don't have to check on him every day, but there's still things I have to do and assist, with his soul and with what he's doing. And then I've got another great aunt, 80, and she got a call from one of the granddaughters that she had fallen today. And she's asked me, well, what do I do? And I was like, well, you attend her. She needs to go to the ER. What does she need? And she's like, well, I don't know. And I was like, but she was feeling dizzy. Her legs wouldn't hold her up. And so she was going to leave her in the bed. And I said, well, just do that until I get back there. So I went to go check on her, and she couldn't. And again, these are physical symptoms that people are going through. And yet some people are really having intense physical symptoms because they're not taking some responsibility for some other aspect of their life. And for her, her son just passed away, her only son. It was an adopted son, and just not even 50 years old. That was, I guess it's been about a month ago now. So you're going to have some guilt in there for some places where, she thought she should have taken responsibility for what the son did or didn't do. I mean, hold on. Everybody's got dynamics with their families. But, and again, this is all part and parcel of what we're doing. What is our responsibility and what is not our responsibility? And at the end of the day, we can only take responsibility for ourselves, first and foremost. And everyone always says, when they're talking about self-care, it's kind of like being on a plane. If the plane's going down, you're having, challenging dynamics, you have to take care of yourself first and then assist others as you can or as your heart draws you to. And so when I went to my aunt's today, checked in, she was fine. She couldn't stand up. She couldn't stand on her own weight. And so I called the other granddaughter, who was a nurse and an RN, and I said, it's time for you. You need to come and assist with this. It's your responsibility, not necessarily mine. I can do what I can when I do, but I said, I've had a telecall scheduled now for quite a while, and I do this regularly, and I need to do this call. And I said, you and your family can deal with your grandma, get her to the ER. I said, after the call, I will come up and we'll check in, assist, and do. There's nothing that I was necessary for to attend my aunt in this particular moment of time. It is the point. And there's a part of me that wanted to go into a knee-jerk reaction and say, well, am I going to feel guilty because I'm not doing something I'm supposed to do? I'm like, no. What's the truth? The truth is that there is immediate family that can assist her. If she didn't have anyone to assist her, like my other aunt, I would have canceled the telecall. I would have got on the call and said, I've got to go do this. And I had to do that on the July 4th call, on the 5th when my other aunt fell. And so I've already done that for one aunt, but she didn't have any other options. So we're really having to go into our heart and just ask ourselves what's true. And what I got today was that we were supposed to do this call. It's a very potent, it's a potent point of time, and I'll go through how it's all connected with some of the other stuff we've done this year. But we're really manifesting our new realities and our new futures. And this moon is the final release point. Full moons are all about releasing. New moons are the new beginnings, but this one is the final release of Pluto in Capricorn before it goes into Aquarius, which happens on the 19th. That's a big deal. It's at the 29th degree. It's been playing 29 Pluto for so long. I'm shocked we haven't had a correction in the financial systems, not just in the United States, but in the world. That doesn't mean it's not going to come, because not everything just always happens right on that moment. But it's kind of like the false inflation of our reality cannot sustain itself anymore. And that's from the financial standpoint. It goes through every other system. Everything that's built on false reality has to morph and come to meet who we are as a collective consciousness. Now, that can become difficult because it depends on your perspective of reality and what you perceive to be reality. If a lot of people are stuck in the old timelines of the 3D control, greed, manipulation, if they're deeply stuck in the material world, if they're not manifesting from spirit and complete holistic body-mind therapy first, it's like, is it going to sustain itself in this new earth? And most people that write about these things would say, no, there's got to be some sort of shift and change. These energies that we're going through are those shifts and changes. And they're extremely potent. They are, again, I don't know if y'all had a chance to read yet, because I just sent it out last night. So many of you probably haven't had a chance to read it. But I'll go over a couple of those things just really quick, just to kind of highlight for those of you that haven't. So the big thing with this moon is at 24 Taurus. Taurus is Earth. That's very deeply grounded Earth energy. It wouldn't surprise me between that and Uranus if there were seismic events. The opposition of Taurus is also Scorpio. So when you look at that as an axis, Scorpio, it deals with all the darker, hidden aspects of things. It's a lot of the deep, dark sexual energy, miscreated sexual energy. Let's clarify that. Things that have to come to light. And this moon, I forget, I'm trying to remember. It's opposing, I think, Mars. So there's going to be a lot of potential harsh action, things that can come with it. It also is taking place right after we've gone through this last eclipse window, but it's also activating the previous eclipse window that we went in when we actually started these calls. It activates that April 8th eclipse that everybody was talking about, and it was so big. It was the last eclipse that we're going to have going across the United States, I think, till 2027. But it also conjuncts Uranus, which is the shocking stuff, and it also hits on that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, which was on April the 20th. So whatever is going on in your life now, and it doesn't have to be some big, shocking reveal. I mean, not everyone's life path is going to be laid out where you're going to be like, oh, my God, this is this, and this is this, this is falling apart. It's not going to play that way for everyone. But when you see it play out in the external world of form, then you'll be like, oh, that's what this was. And it's kind of like, it's going to take things like this to take people into their hearts. I mean, that's one thing Jude always used to talk about. I mean, and it's really true. I mean, Spirit's always said, and it's one of the biggest things that I got from Jude with teaching of all this time, is every single nanoparticle of who we are individually and collectively, everything wants to be met fully and completely and deeply with cosmic love. Now, so many times we think we're being met by people we meet because they see us. And so what do I mean by when someone sees you? So let's say you meet someone for the first time and you're like, there's this whole connection. There's just this synchronistic thing, and you're like, oh. So you start talking about things that are familiar, that you have in common. Sometimes you choose those people to do business with, partnership with, marry, have kids, what have you. And then, of course, you get hindsight later, and you go back and you look at the dynamic and you ask yourself, was this a good co-creation with another human being, with another soul? And because we always have choice points in life, and we also have points where we go through life and we've got this whole journey where we're just in the river and we're flowing here and flowing there. And some people have much rougher journeys through life. But and you'll know certain points in your life when you've done this. You sit and you look and you ask yourself, should I have really made a different choice back then? Either when you chose a job, when you chose relationship, whatever the choice was, it doesn't matter. Chose a university. It could be a simple thing. Buying a car. I mean, I don't know. It could have also been something as so simple as, should you have gone to go visit someone at some certain time, because that certain visit may have set off a whole chain reaction of something, either for them or for you, that you wish hadn't happened. And so it's all of these points when we look at them as a whole, and we can in hindsight see, if I'd stayed in my heart and made a different choice, would my heart have led me to a place of less lower expressed energies, let's say? Would it have led me to a different timeline? But we're really always making those choices, aren't we, though, on a deep level? It's like we want better lives, At the same time, there really is no better than or less than. There's just different choice points, and we have different reality comes to pass based on our choices. And we really are in an infinite reality system when it comes to our choices. Part of them, though, they come to us karmically. And there's part of it, again, it's the ancestral karma. It can be the karma in this lifetime. But we're bringing everything to resolution is the point. And with this particular moon cycle, we're going to be releasing stuff from our core that we never knew existed. Now, again, I mean, I know that may sound dramatic, and I don't mean it to be necessarily dramatic. And it won't be dramatic for everyone. Sometimes we will only be witnessing or assisting others in their potential or in their immediacy of where their growth is or is not. And so that's all we need to know. And you'll know in your heart whether or not you should be the one assisting whoever it is in that moment of time. And obviously, if something just plops itself in your lap, then obviously, that's something for you to consider. And then you ask, is this true or is it not true? And some things you may think, oh my gosh, why on earth am I going to do this? And yet your heart says, I must do this. Part of that will be clearing old karma. It will be clearing you out for something that's going to be coming in your immediate near future. You're going to find a lot of situations that are doing that. You're going to find all sorts of relationships. I think and I'll talk about this with eclipses, when relationships blow up because they're windows, sideways elevators where we step into a new reality through choice points. We change timelines. This really is a big timeline change as well, because as we release, and this is going to be a huge release, we're really stepping into the new so much lighter and lighter. Now, Pluto's going to be going into Aquarius. It will be it won't go back into Capricorn anymore. We've talked about this for 16 years. The last 16 years have been very challenging. And again, it had to do with structures in our life. The structures that held together relationships, held together our finances, held together our homes. It held together what has been perceived to be our reality. I'm going to go one step further, and I'm going to say Pluto and Capricorn is breaking apart anything left of the way we perceived 3D. Pluto going into Aquarius really is taking us into cosmic presence. It's taking us into oceanic presence. It's bringing us into a completely new state of being because the dynamics are completely different. This is really when we're going to go supernova in quantum theory, quantum awareness, quantum function. It would not surprise me if one of the big changes is switching over to the cosmic banking system. What's this? Oh, a blood pressure for my aunt. Okay. I told her to send me stuff. Okay. Anyway, but so there's a whole changeover in how we're going to engage life. Or I guess it depends on where we are in the evolution of our own souls. And if we've really done the internal work and we're one with spirit, we're one with the divine, we are one with the all that is, it doesn't matter what's happening in that particular day. We're certainly going to be in divine flow. But if we've really done the work in releasing the old, we've opened up plenty of space for the new to come in and really create something that we never dreamed possible before. Because you got a couple things happening. What we've been doing is releasing our ego self, the lower ego self, the part that we come in and we're trying to transcend. You don't want to give up ego. I mean, obviously that's part of who we are. And I do think that some people say, oh, just give it up completely and totally. You wouldn't have your own sense of self, I don't think. At the same time, when you merge so completely with the divine, you're in a flow where you allow the highest potentiality to be brought in and manifested with you. And that I think is the part where real true faith, the way people in religious, well, not just religious places, but that's the deepest sense of faith I think that we really operate in, because it comes from the depths of the heart. It's not a faith that comes where you sit and you say, oh, I hope this will happen. Oh, I hope this. Well, everybody can hope something till the cows come home. But if you're hoping for something, it's like it's never going to happen. People talk about false hope. And if you're in a place of hope, then you're always in a place where something can't manifest for you. What if that's true? Actually, I'm not even going to make that as a proclamation. It's not for me to tell anyone else what a reality is. But what if it's true? What if you give up hope? What if you move from hope to just pure knowing that your new reality is coming to you? There's no separation between you and the new flow that's going to bring your manifestations in your highest potentiality. As you're bringing in the highest manifestations, you're also releasing anything that you're done with. Now, again, part of this, Pluto and Capricorn structures, a lot of it is your physicality. If you've got stuff in your home, this is the time to feng shui it. I mean, literally, and I'm the poster child for this. I'm still trying to do this for myself. We have to release the physical stuff that we no longer need, because it takes up so much of it. It's kind of like it's attached partly to who we are as an extension. I mean, it's not our essence, obviously, because our essence is not, tied into that kind of stuff. At the same time, we can have physical things. I mean, I don't want to say get rid of everything and go be a monk. I mean, if your soul calls to do that, then, please do, or whatever. But it's like, if we're sitting around with things that just occupy space just because they're there, just because, it's there because it's always been there. My mom had it, my dad had it, my grandparents had it, whatever. If it doesn't bring you complete and total joy, ask yourself if it's supposed to stay. And if we have an accumulation of the material world, does it hold us back in the past? Does it assist in keeping us from manifesting the immediacy of the future? And I bring it up partially because of density. Think about density for a moment. So that's physical density. It's things that we either claim or not claim, or we just keep just because we don't make a conscious decision to either use it or get rid of it and give it to someone else and re-gift it to someone that can use it. The same thing would be true for the rest of our existence. So emotions, any unprocessed emotions, the same thing. If something is stuck in us and it keeps gnawing at us and it bothers us, it could be past emotions from childhood. It doesn't matter who or what it is. If you have any leftover residual in the emotional body, this is the time to let that go. Mental thoughts. let's say that your mind is still constantly being brought to something that has nothing to do with you. And you may ask, well, what kind of thing would that be? Okay. Let's say it's something you've watched on television. It could be a movie. It could be a song. Oh, my God. Songs can be the most invasive things into our psyches, and we have no clue about it. It's part of how we fall into the deep hypnosis. And I've noticed that myself in the past. I've noticed it quite a bit, but it's been really in my face in the last week. A song will pop in just out of the blue, and I'm like, God, I hadn't heard that for years. Why is that even taking up space, and why is it coming up now? And we don't realize how, when we've heard something in the past, it anchors somewhere in the soul because it's meeting something within us that needed to be met. And if you go back and you think, especially in the 80s, all the sing-along music, it really was a powerful time of music, but it's like we were singing along to everything. It didn't matter what it was, who it was, but each soul was drawn to so many of the more popular songs in popular culture. And especially like for those of us that were in high school in the early 80s, how did it affect the way that we formulated reality? What we believed to be true, especially regarding our coming of age as teenagers, becoming adults, how we look at our fellow classmates, how we look at them as people, how we look at them as possible soulmates to marry, to have kids with, to work with. And a lot of people say, well, that really didn't affect me. I just like the music because I like it. But does it not affect you on a core level? What's the difference between music of any of the decades that we listen to, and let's go back and say classical music under Beethoven, Bach, any of the big classical musical moments that we listen to? I used to love classical music. I haven't listened to it in a very long time, really. It used to be calming. Again, it was a different frequency. Everything we listened to in the later decades, let's say from, I'm not sure when the frequency started changing. At least probably 1900, I would think. There was a frequency shift in the way music created things. And again, I've said everything's a frequency. So it doesn't matter what you're listening to, even if you're listening to something that has positive lyrics, if the music is tuned to a frequency that is inharmonious with your divine blueprint, I'm suggesting to you that false frequency that wasn't part of your divine self went in and it changed an aspect of your DNA, and it went in, and over time, as you habitually listen to it, it was changing the way you perceived yourself based on what you were listening to. Now imagine these kids that listen to some of this really awful grunge rock or the rap, or I'm talking about the really dark stuff, and we wonder what's wrong with society. And they say, oh, it's just because they grew up in that particular class system. Yes and no. It's all the above is true. And it all goes back to Joseph Mengele out of Nazi Germany. Talk about these things as frequencies, and it's part of the MK Ultra programming. And again, some of you may not have awareness of it, just go research it. I'm not going to spoon feed anyone on stuff like that, but research it on your own and read about it and go to your heart and ask yourself what's true and what's not true. And when you start seeing these things, it's going to wake you up to things that you can't go back to sleep on it. And I don't want to get hung up on something like that, but the whole point of this, I guess, circuitous little route through all this has really been to just one final look at how vast the external world has projected itself onto us, and that we as antennas, because we're each an antenna, have been affected by whatever was happening out there in the world of form. There are people that don't have anything to do with popular culture. They don't listen to music, television, anything else. And they live to be pretty healthy, normal, balanced people. They're in nature a lot. They don't get caught up in all of this, fluff world. Again, the things with news, the political stuff. It doesn't exist. It does, but it doesn't. And so many people say, well, I need to spend time to assist people in shifting and changing from that. No, you don't. What we do is we go into our hearts and we shift and change ourselves. That is all you're responsible for changing. That is all you are responsible for attending. Now, that does not mean that you don't assist your family, friends, whatever, to the extent that you can, and the extent that it does not take away from your internal joy and your internal bliss, and in being in a frequency where you're here and creating your own heaven on earth. As we change ourselves, we're creating a dynamic where the external world has to come meet us. If you don't hear anything else today, let that be one of the things that you do really get at your core. I'm going to be me, whoever you are, and you're going to allow this to emerge from the deepest aspect of who you are, and you're going to let the world come meet you. You're going to release any guilt. There's no guilt in this reality. None. Yes, you're going to have people that continually fall apart. You're going to have this, that, whatever else. Attend to the point you can attend, just like I've had to do this evening. Is it my responsibility? And you'll ask yourself that for every single thing you do. But you also give up this idea of guilt. Guilt doesn't exist. It was projected onto us. It's part of a false matrix thing. It's not there. And I assure you, God does not project guilt onto us. There's no dynamic that the Creator gives us. Now, sometimes we've had things that we had to clear from a karmic residue standpoint. Absolutely. And if there's a place where your soul still has to learn something from it, then it's going to continue to create another part of that. But I'm also telling you, this is the end of the road for it, if you want it to be. So, well, that's the Pluto and Capricorn with the moon. The other part to this too, let me find one of the other things that I meant to try to highlight some of this today, but that didn't work out so good. Let me see. Actually, I'm just going to draw on what I pulled in. I don't have my readers in here either. I think I can probably paraphrase most of it anyway. But so another part of what we're doing is allowing our deepest gifts to come from the core of who we are. And you may say, well, how do I do that? I remember Jude used to constantly ask me to go in and just allow that to happen for myself. I'm like, what the hell do you mean? When I first started doing this with her, I was like, oh my gosh, what kind of gifts? What's supposed to be so special? What's this? What's that? And my mind was constantly trying to understand everything. And she was just give that up. Don't even try to understand. You'll never understand. And that really is one of the hardest things I think we try to do, is to understand anything. And if you don't already do it, one of the things that I would invite you to do is really, when you wake up, stay in your heart and just go into like your own morning meditation. If it's only 5 minutes, just to kind of center yourself and just ask Spirit what wants to come forth today. And as you do that as a regular type of thing, it's like Spirit can start communing with you. And you have dialogue. Sometimes you're going to feel like you're talking to yourself, and yet you really are, because you're talking to your higher self. So it's an aspect of your God self talking to you, and you're not crazy. I can assure you, you're not crazy. But you do allow the highest aspect of who you are in a moment come forth. The more you release all the other stuff, you're making room for the new life to come in. And it's so critical to do this right now with this moon, at this time, and going into next year. Part of that, okay, so I can go into some of the rest of this. I'm starting to remember some of the dynamics of it. Okay, so Neptune has been, again, at the 29th degree of Pisces as well. Pisces is the end of the zodiac. Aries is the beginning. It's going to be coming back and forth between Aries and Pisces, between its forward motion and retrograde motions for the next couple of years, all the way into 2026, the beginning of 2026. Saturn moves faster than Neptune. Saturn's also in Pisces. It's in the mid-degrees, and it's going to go back and forth like it does as well. Both of them are going to meet up in Aries. I want to say it's around May of 2026. When Saturn, the work we came here to do, and Neptune, which is the dream, the previous dream, the current dream, the collective dream, who we are as the mystical aspects of ourselves, who are we as God presence, it's all the above. When Saturn and Neptune meet up together, that's when we're really going to be, in the deepest manifestation of creating the new reality, because we will have done all the other work. Now, again, Pisces is the sign it's all the hidden stuff, it's the mystic realms, it's anything that's been secretive a lot of times. Part of that's Scorpio too. It depends on the placements with things, but Pisces is very dreamy. It can also be the delusion. If you think about how many people have been deluded by the false matrix, how many people are going to wake out of that and not know who on earth they are? And it could be that shocking for some people. There's going to be a lot of revelations coming forth. Uranus is transiting all of this. It's aspecting these things. That is the shocking parts. Another part to this is also Chiron in Aries. Chiron is the wounded healer. It's the wounds we carry. It's what we come in with. And because it's in Aries, it's in the I am presence. I know this because I've got a 0 degree Aries in my chart, and my sun is at 29, almost 29 Aries, 2847. I've got Mercury there at almost 22 degrees in Aries. I've got Saturn at 17, progressed Saturn at 27, Venus at 12, Eris right there at 11, 7, 8, something like that. all these things I have in Aries. That's why every astrologer always wants to talk to me. And what's happening, all these things are going to come in, though, and they're going to hit Aries in the next couple years. And Aries is the new formulation. It's who we are at our core before we get in and do the later work. Pisces is the end of the dream before going into the next, zodiac beginning. And this is why the next 2 years are so critical and potent. Well, actually about a year and a half between now and the beginning of 2026. And I know some people say, oh, it's going to be so long. It's going to fly. And it is going to fly. The reason it's going to fly is because of the fact when Pluto goes into Aquarius, Pluto is death and transformation. And I've said this before in calls, and it's really true. Every nanosecond of ourselves is constantly going through death, rebirth. Now, when you get into quantum awareness, it's the same thing. It's constant death and rebirth. So it's the immediacy of a moment. What happens when you're no longer in the death process and the birth process, but you're just in the now? In the now, there is no death and rebirth. And that's the paradox. It's just immediacy. But it's also how people heal. It's how people in the other countries that have really not had governmental controls knocking them down, it's how they go in and take people in spontaneous healing. It's how, if you've ever seen some of these programs on Science Channel, Discovery Channel, where you'll have 3 doctors go in and they're working with somebody in India, and they sit there and give them Shakti Put or whatever else, and they shift them. And they're like, oh, what's happened? It's really pretty awesome. And so imagine that we're going into the new collective dream, which we are, but we're attending it from where our own perspective is. So I don't know how many of you may think of yourselves as like a holistic healer potential. If you're looking at doing something consciously with people in your life, could be astrology, could be numerology, could be body work. You could be going into massage therapy, maybe wanting to go into Reiki, craniosacral, jiu-jitsu. There's so many things you could do. You could be going into people and assisting in nutrition. If you've done research with people or for yourself on what's good for assisting people with diets. People, especially in the United States, need assistance with diet. Oh my gosh, I'm certainly one of many myself, and I've been trying to shift these things myself. But there's going to be frequency shifts with the way that we heal ourselves. And again, I mean, these are only parts of the places where we're trying to go into a new creation. So I guess that's about all I'm going to go into as far as like the big dynamics and everything. Y'all can read the astrology and see what they're saying, but because they can certainly write it and you can read it more effectively than. So I'd really like to just take us into the meditation part where we really go in and really work with Mother, Father, God, and Spirit and shift anything that's left, all the crap, just anything left over that we want to release. Because the more we can let go of, we're going to create massive, massive, massive new beginnings for ourselves. And I hope I've not been too all over the map with some of the talk tonight. It's been a skitsy energy, it's the moon is that it's that wild. It's it's very bizarre. So anyway, okay. Well, if you're already in a nice place to be calm and go in, then some of you have already done that. If you're not, then please do maybe put yourself in a place where you're comfortable and can just go in and relax and allow some deep quantum healing. I feel like I'm getting a sinus thing too. That's one of course, the symptoms that go along with these things. Sinus is one of the big things because it's right there at the brain. It's in the front of our face. It's how we face the world. Sometimes there's a lot of congestion that builds up in that particular space, and it's not always easy. Okay, so let's just go in. So as you continually go into a 0 point awareness for yourself, we've done this for most calls, and it still is very pertinent for this call, especially this call. It's not even really necessary that we go through and ask for a certain thing that be done. What if we just go in and we ask Spirit, ask Mother, Father, God, the entire company of heaven, what if we just turn ourselves over to the great mystery? And we ask that the highest potentiality of shift happen for us on every multidimensional level of our expression. Not necessarily giving our power away particularly. At the same time, though, asking Spirit, Mother, Father, God, the all that is, the whole company of heaven, all the ascended masters, the whole archangelic kingdom, the Elohim builders of form, and all of the elemental kingdoms. What if we ask for the highest potentiality in how we create our world from this moment through eternity, through immediacy, throughout the whole time-space continuum, whatever that looks like. And yet we're still very grounded here in this reality, the 3D reality, but we're also still in multidimensional expression. So that means attending our family, friends, and whatever still, but we attend in a very different way. We come in His presence, and we can assist in that presence, and yet we don't get caught up in the trauma dramas. How can we be here in our highest potentiality and still feel light as a feather? What would that be like? And yet still be here and be grounded. As I sit here in this energy, it's such a bizarre feeling sometimes because there's no worry, there's no sense of space sometimes. There's no frame of reference. In some ways, I feel disconnected from the external world, and yet I feel so immersed in that there's no separation in any of it. But I perceive it that way because the density has been released. My perception of the density of it all. So the world feels lighter. Because I'm not carrying the heavy stories and all of the external projections that are projected into the field. What does that look like for you, the listener? And obviously people will listen to this after this particular full moon on November 15th in 2024. But imagine you're listening to this particular call at this moment and you are releasing very core aspects of what you thought reality was. If you could create the most amazing, magical thing for yourself and your family and loved ones and your community, what would it be? Let's say that you release all of the emotional trauma, anything that's left, the mental trauma, spiritual trauma. And you're able to clear it even out of the physicality of your expression. And it left you in a very light place. What if you were cleared of karmic inheritance and you're just here in a beautiful dharmic existence with the all that is, and you're waiting for your next moment of instruction from the divine? What would that be? What would it look like? How magical, we don't want to overuse the word magical, but how magical could your daily existence be? Just being in pure joy. Some people may say, well, I'm a car dealer, car salesman. How would I be just in pure joy doing that all the time? Some people do it. Some people are doctors. Some people are attorneys. Some people are janitors. Some people are waiters and waitresses, cooks, dishwashers, flight attendants, bankers. It doesn't matter what it is that you're doing. Judges, politicians, artists, singers, dancers, actors. It doesn't matter what we're doing in the external world of form necessarily. But we are invited to ask ourselves on a constant basis. It should be like a meditation. And you ask yourself each day, is what I'm doing and contributing to the world assisting my fellow human beings? Is it assisting people in my community, my family, my friends? Or is there any aspect of what I'm doing, no matter what the job is there any part of what I'm doing that is hurting or taking away and diminishing something from someone else, either mentally, emotionally, spiritually, or physically? They used to say from medicine that they would do no harm. And yet when you look at the medical world as it's currently morphed today, how many could actually make that statement and it be a true statement that they're doing no harm? Imagine that every single person would ask themselves that about their job. You could work at a grocery, you could work at anything retail. Is there anything about what you do with your job that creates any type of harm? Emotional, mental, physical, spiritual, any of it? And if so, how can you make subtle shifts or even large shifts to the way you do your job or your vocation or whatever it is that you do? Have you become so awake that you can sit in and be in your own meditation as you do the work and know in each moment of time that whatever you're doing is either assisting humanity or detracting from it? And can you course correct through the immediacy of knowing? This is something we've been entrained away from. We're so deeply habituated in our existence of whatever job we have. We're told how to do something, and we, as a general rule, just do that, no matter what it is. What if you become so conscious of every single action and nanosecond and particle that you put out into the world, where it was almost seemingly impossible for you to do anything that would hurt another person? What would that look like? As you go in and feel into that, can you perceive how much lighter you are in this particular moment of time? Just by having this awareness brought into your frame of reference at this moment. Can you, throughout your day, as a part of your meditative process, ask to be released out of any and all soul contracts with other human beings throughout multidimensional presence? In other words, that would mean in this particular existence of reality, it would mean in any and all parallel realities and universes. It would mean any place that you, as some aspect, as a God expression, is reacting or being out into the world. What if you could release any and all miscreated and distorted thought forms that have emanated from you throughout all time and space and infinite presence and everything you've ever been? That certainly is not how most human beings are entrained to look at themselves, is it? What would that mean? How much lighter do you feel just hearing that type of languaging? What if, in this particular moment on this moon, powerful, the last super full moon, the last huge release of Pisces and Capricorn, what if we could ask on behalf of the highest aspects of every single soul that's ever been in existence, what if we could ask on behalf of all of them that they could be given the grace of being released from any and all of the most awful, miscreated energies that they've ever co-created on their own, either consciously or unconsciously. What if we can ask for that on behalf of all their souls through our soul in existence? Obviously, we can't release someone else's karma, and we can't release what someone else has created. But what if by simply stating all of that, we open a door for their soul to step into a higher state of being that has less densification? And we don't project an agenda necessarily on each of these souls' contracts, because they each have their own soul growth to go through, their own hero's journey to go through. But we can certainly ask for the highest potentiality when it's open-ended potentiality. That leaves it between their soul and spirit and Mother, Father, God to work that through, does it not? We've mentioned this before, taking care in how we assist and pray or co-create with and for someone else. When we do that, are we creating a place where we see someone else as healed? Is that an appropriate way to hold and express our energy fields for others in the external world? There is no separation. As we're here and we're doing this, we can certainly ask for the highest potential of shift for other people in our lives. For instance, when I put myself first and we did this call, I am holding in presence the highest potentiality for my aunt that is in the ER getting checked out with her granddaughters. If I had made a choice to not do this and to go and attend her, would I be not meeting my highest potentiality within this last, now over an hour? Whatever the time period is, time doesn't exist. In this moment, in this eternal moment of this particular telecall, what if we are shifting exponentially the field, the morphogenetic field, by all of us sitting here, the 13, or how many ever there are of us now, that are holding space and shifting for humanity? Again, there's no better than or less than. It's not better than that I do this or less than that I do it, and that I don't do, or that I've not attended my in the ER during this particular moment. How will this be true for you from now on in your own reality? How can you put yourself first and also be there for others? This is what we're truly learning to do. Caring for someone else while not being at the expense of yourself. Can we ask on behalf of all of ourselves that we be released in the very core of our cellular structures, any miasms, any of the past history that we carry? Can we ask for the greatest grace of God that we be shifted and released from any and all of those frequencies? I'm yawning so largely with all of this. I know we're releasing so much, certainly for each other, and can we not ask for that for all 8 billion plus souls on the planet? According to their soul contracts at any given moment of time, from the moment that they may listen to this as a message. As you're deeply immersed in this meditation, can you track it and really feel the depth of these energy transmissions that we're sitting in? And let us ask for the highest possible timelines for ourselves and all of humanity. Or perhaps, more appropriately, let's give thanks and gratitude for all of the realities and shifts that are already in place and that we're stepping into. Because in reality, they've already been existing. There's no separation from some future us. What if there is no future? There's only the immediate moment. In this immediate moment, we are attending all that is. I think we've shifted so much for ourselves and also for humanity. It's not for us to track it. It's not for us to give an opinion on it. It's not for us to know anything else about it. We've all come forth today to go through and personally release every single nanoparticle of anything that no longer serves us on this very potent Taurus full moon. And we each sit in the deepest amount of gratitude for Mother, Father, God, and the entire company of heaven to leave us in a place of the deepest pristine awareness that we can each hold and carry at this moment of time. And we can certainly ask it for any and all souls throughout infinite presence based on where they are in their soul contracts, which doesn't take away from their free will choices, but asks for the highest potentiality that we can assist with them in any given moment. Thank you all so much for coming together yet once again to assist us in attending this. And I know every time that we do come together, we are shifting the field. The morphogenetic field is in constant reciprocity with who we are and how we're creating our reality, and it has to come meet us where we are. I also know that we are all creating wonderful, amazing new beginnings for ourselves. They've already been created. They're waiting for us. Some of them are just around the corner. I have no idea the amount of time with that corner because time doesn't exist. Everything's immediate. But we can certainly ask that we get forward movement now and that we attend what is in our immediate awareness. Whatever's in our life at this moment, go attend that. We have to attend whatever's currently on our plate. It may be just releasing it. If it's not yours, release it. Whether it's physical stuff, whether it's people, places, things, it doesn't matter. Go into your hearts, and if it does not fit, allow it to go and bless it and thank it. Or him or her. It's all the above. Critical choice points of time we're in. As Judith always used to say, Om Shanti. And infinite love and infinite blessings to all of you.